Okay, since I'm down here, let's have a conversation. So today at work, I was listening to First Samuel as I was working, and I came across a passage that caught my attention. So First Samuel chapter 15, verses 10 through 11, it says, "The Lord told Samuel, Saul has stopped obeying me, and I'm sorry I made him king." Samuel was angry and cried out in prayer all night. And it had me thinking, if God is omniscient, hopefully I said that right, then why would he have regret for making Saul king? Because that means he already knew what was going to happen. And then also in the story, it talks about how the Israelites wanted a king. And so God was like, okay, cool. They want a king. I'm going to give them a king. You know what I'm saying? Because that means they turn their back on me. So I'm going to give them a king. And so they give him Saul. So that tells me he already gave him a king that he knew was going to make the Israelites' life not great. But I guess for me, it's like, okay, for him to already know this, and it also ties into free will, right? Because we do have the right to choose which path we're going to take. Anyway, I'm going ahead of myself. So anyway, as I was doing my research, because I had to look into it, I was like, okay, if God is omniscient, why would he regret Saul? Because he already knew how Saul was going to be. So basically when he says that he regrets him or that he feels sorry that he chose him, it's basically just him expressing his sorrow that Saul chose to turn his back on him and not be the king that he told him to do. Because when he went into the battle with Amalekites, something like that, he didn't do what he said. Like I told you about Joseph, he told him, hey, go in there and destroy everything. Saul didn't do that. He kept the good cattle, and he kept stuff that he wasn't supposed to keep. And so because of that, God decided he didn't want Saul to be king anymore. So that's where David comes into play. But anyway, back to Saul. So with that being said, it had me thinking about God being omniscient and free will, which took me down another rabbit hole of thought. Because it's like, if he's omniscient, how does that tie into us being free will? Because that means he already knows what's going to happen. But then I think about the fact that in the Bible, he controls people's hearts in the Old Testament. So like the king that was so stubborn, and God made sure he kept making his heart stubborn. So that way God's ultimate plan was, of course, eventually Jesus. So it has me thinking like, yes, he's omniscient. So like he can see things beyond what we can see. However, it doesn't take away from the fact that we do control our choices. Because he can see our heart posture. So I feel like him being omniscient is tied to our heart posture. Because if you have an evil heart posture, like Saul did towards the end, whenever David became chosen, God took the spirit out of Saul and gave him an evil spirit. And so in that part of the book, you'll see Saul fighting between doing right by David and also that evil spirit taking over every time he was away from David. So every time he was away from David, he always wanted to kill him or hurt him or get rid of him because he was jealous. But then every time he was in David's face, David would remind him, hey, I did this and I did this, and you are the chosen king. I'm not going to hurt you. And then Saul would be like, oh, I'm not going to touch you. But I guess along the line, he would forget it. So I feel like him being omniscient, meaning he can forecast based off of our heart posture, because he knows our heart. He can see our heart posture. That's if that makes sense to you. But that's just where my thought process. Please leave your opinions in there on that, because I'm tied to that right now and I'm still looking into it. But I really wanted to share that with y'all guys, because I was really stuck on the fact that he was like, I'm sorry I made Saul king. And I was like, but you knew why you made Saul king, because you knew that you needed you wanted to make the Israelites mad because they turned their back on you. So you wanted to give them a king that was going to be more, that was going to become like selfish.